Hello Andreas, this is the video for your 1UZ-FE VVT-i from an LS400 98 to 2000. This is plug and play into an IS200 using the J160 gearbox. So we've got all your gearbox wiring in there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through what's inside your ECU box. Wait till the end and you'll see all the photos and you'll see what it looks like when it's all tucked away in there. Now it's a bit sort of messy as part of the testing. But you've got your ECU, you've got your 6 plugs over there. You've got your resin, which is going to plug into your 2 IS200 existing plugs. Coming down here, you've got your grey, your black, and your blue. You've got your ATEMU device, that's automatic transmission emulator, because obviously you're going manual. Then we've got your gauge device, which is obviously translating the MPX from the 1UZ ECU to the MPX for the IS200, so all the gauges and everything work as they should. So, obviously you've got your grommet, which is obviously going to go inside there. Your harness is going to run there, sort of along there towards the back of the engine over here. Once it gets into here, you're going to go into your back piece of plastic over here, which holds the harness in place. Now in your case with a 1UZ, you would have a screw mounting here and have a screw mounting there. This is a 3UZ engine, so I don't have those 2 mounts in there, but you've also got another one over here, which I do have. So that's how that bolts onto the back here. Now you'll see you've got your plug in the back, which goes down and goes into your sub harness, which goes to your 2 knock sensors and your V-bank and your starter motor. And again, at the end, you will see that there are photos of what it looks like underneath there. We did have to replace the wires, so it's all labeled and everything underneath there for you now. Coming out this side over here, we're going straight over the top to this piece of plastic as well, and this is bolted on here and here. And coming out of here, we've got your injectors and coils for this one. So this is the left bank, so that's coil 7 and injector 7. Then the next breakout point there, we've got coil 5 and injector 5. Then a little bit more forward to here, and it breaks out to coil 3, injector 3, and your cam sensor in the middle there. And out of this little box comes this little thing, which bolts on right over there. So you go over there. We've got rid of the evap sensor, so you don't have to use that anymore, so you can just take that out altogether. Coming further out there, you're going to have injector 1 and coil 1, and at this breakout you're also going to have your oil control valve for the left bank. There's a little bit extra down here, and then it's going to break out to come to your TPS sub plug. So you'll see your TPS sensors actually inside there. There's like a little sub harness, and this plugs into that. Then it goes across the top like that, and then it goes into your pedal position sensor. Remember, this is drive-by-wire, so that's a pedal position sensor. Right, then we're going to carry on down the rest of the way there. So let's move over here. So comes a little bit further down here, breaks out over here, and that goes into your drive-by-wire motor and clutch wiring there. Then it goes into your crank sensor, which bolts on there. And you see you've got little clips that hold the harness in place over here. And it comes round, and then it breaks out over here to 3 sections. One being your aircon, so that'll plug directly into your aircon pump. Then it goes through here, underneath here, and down to your crank sensor, which is over there. And then in this case, you'll see this is your oil wire. I've got an LS430 engine, so my housing is slightly different from yours. Yours will obviously go out the back over here. All right. So that's that whole side down there sorted out. And then coming back to the piece of plastic at the back here, just down here is where your earth is going to come out here, so that bolts onto there. Now the 1UZ uses the M8 holes there, not the M6 holes up there, so just remember that. Then you've also got your Lambda sensor, which goes down into there. So do remember there is a little metal heat shield that lives here. Don't remove it, and this should be on the engine block side of the heat shield to keep it away from the exhaust heat. Also coming out of here is your gearbox harness. So there's your reverse light for the J160 and your speed sensor for the J160 gearbox. Coming further along here, you then have a breakout little section coming out here, and that goes to the other earth strap over there. So again, not the M6 hole, the M8 hole. You can tell by the earth ring, it's an M8 hole, not an M6 hole. Coming down here to the end of the plastic, then you're going to break out to injector 8 and coil 8. You're going to come a little bit more over there, then you're going to break out there, and that's going to go to your ACIS plug. If you want to know ACIS, obviously I've got a video on exactly how that works. Then you're coming out to injector 6, if I can get in there, and coil 6. Then it's going to go a little bit further and break out over here, and that's going to break out to injector 4, your cam sensor for your right bank, and coil 4. It's then going to come forward towards the front here, and then it's going to break out to go to injector 2 and coil 2. It's also going to break out to go to your oil control valve for your right bank. There's your coolant temp sensor, which goes in there. You should have a bolt underneath there. You don't have to worry about that. You leave that bolt in place. Then it's going to break out and go into your mass airflow sensor. Obviously this is not the correct one. You need like the bullet style one. That's why I'm having to adapt it, because the wiring is completely different. So if you've got this MAF, that's wrong. This won't work with that MAF. The wiring is all completely different. Coming down here, and then we break out over here, and that's going to go to your alternator plug. So obviously all of these originally were in a separate harness, so we've incorporated them all into one. You've got your oil level, which is obviously going to plug in there. And then coming down here, you've got your Lambda sensor, which plugs in over there and then runs along here like that. Okay, so that's the entire engine harness itself. You literally, it makes a U shape. You just drop it on top. You start bolting everything down that needs to be bolted down, like all the plastics, and then start plugging everything in. On this side, it's very easy. You're just going to drop the harness in, put the grommet in, and then plug, and then plug the 3 plugs in there and these 2 in here, and you're way to go. The only other thing to remember is your earth for your block. So in your case, there's your battery earth. It goes down underneath, bolts to the chassis, then comes out, and you use that wire just to bolt onto the block. So anywhere you like along there, really. There's tons of bolt holes there. You can use the engine mount, you can use whichever one you want. Then you've got your main starter cable. Now you'll notice what I've done is I haven't taped this up all the way because this is way too long. You've got the correct terminal on there, so what I do is chop this and then get a nice use the tester. We're going to test the fuel pump. So the fuel pump is controlled by the ECU. So we're just going to test that in there so you can actually hear it come on in the relay click. We're then going to test the AC clutch again through the system so you can actually hear the relay click. And yeah, your AC system will work, but obviously you have to plumb everything up and you must retain this pressure switch. All right, make sure that you do have that. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start the engine. Starting, it's going to prove the starter circuit works. Pretty self-explanatory. Then what we'll do is we'll go from turning the key, come around here, we'll make sure that the tacho is working. The tacho signal is converted by the MPX device, so it's accurate, so you don't have to worry about that one. We'll look at the dash quickly. We'll see the coolant temp because I have been running it to test everything, so the coolant temp is actually above the needle so we can actually see it's working. Then what we'll do is we'll come over to the engine. What we're going to be looking for is the ACIS valve. So this little valve here is currently in the upright position. Once it starts after a few seconds, boom, that'll shoot down like that. So that's how you can tell your ACIS is working. It's a nice visual representation when the harness is with you. Drive-by-wire test, obviously we're just going to push the accelerator. Nice and simple. If it works, brilliant. Then what we're going to do is we are going to test the oil control valves. Again, with the tester, what you're going to notice is it'll retard the cams just to make sure that everything is working as it should do. So you'll hear the engine go blah, blah, very lumpy, and I'll do bank 1 and bank 2. You'll see, I'll have the camera on this, you'll see what I'm doing from there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go run and I'm going to unplug each injector at a time, starting from that side or whichever side. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 7, 5, 3, and 1. That'll prove that all the cylinders are firing exactly as they should and all the cores and injectors are firing. Then what we'll do is we'll go through the codes that you're going to get on there, and then basically what you should always have and anything else you shouldn't have. Okay. Right, so let's get started with that. So what we're going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is we've got a key here. So this has got obviously buttons in, but just to show you that the immobilizer is completely removed. There's no buttons in this, there's no ceramic chip, there's no possible way that I could be trying to get it in there. And as per usual with Toyota, as soon as I put the key in the ignition barrel, you'll see the light stops flashing. Okay, I'm just going to take the light away there, and I'm going to pull the key out, and you'll see the light flashes and goes off. Okay, right. So the immobilizer is removed, but I like to keep the security light working because people walking by your car, they'll think that there's an immobilizer on there, may make them walk on and go on to the next one. Right, so key in the ignition. As it's plug and play, you're just going to put the key in the ignition, you're going to turn it on. I can already hear the throttle humming away there. So ambient temperature, let's make our way around here, and you will see 13 degrees, lovely and toasty in here. And coming over here, you can see we've got our battery light, we've got our oil light, and we've got our check engine light, so we're happy that all the lights on the dash are working. You do have a low oil level sensor on the engine, so plug that in and that will work. Just remember to take out your TRC bulb because traction control isn't going to work anymore. Right, coming on to reverse now. So what I'm going to do is what your gearbox would do, and I'm just going to bridge this switch. So I'm just going to bridge that there, and you're going to hear the usual IS200 reverse buzzer. Okay, so there is the annoying buzzer. Let's just get that in there. Right, so I've just bridged that. So we're happy that that is all working correctly as it should do. Okay, next up we're going to look at the speedo. So you can see on there, our speedo is reading 0. What we're going to do is we're going to feed the signals directly into the plug. This tests everything because obviously this sensor has 12 volts ground and then the feed out. So I'm using 12 volts and ground to power my little device, and then I'm feeding the signal back into the signal wire. That means that everything on this plug is working exactly as you would expect it. So I'm just going to quickly put it into test mode. Okay, there it is. So I'm just going to take the yellow wire, and as I touch it on the wire, let me just move the camera over to there. You see there, so we know we've got a signal directly from the plug all the way to the cluster, so we're happy with that. Right, moving over to the OBD2 machine. Takes forever, so I'm already on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into here. A slightly pointy thing to do it. I'm going to go system select, just so you can see it's picked up as LS400, plugged directly into the OBD2 port of the standard IS200, so that's all wired correctly. And obviously we'll just make sure that we can see loads of data. So we should be able to see coolant temp, intake air temp, there you go, 55 degrees coolant, 20 degrees intake air, 16% throttle position, etc, etc. So super happy with that. And as you can see on there, you can see that the actual coolant temp is off the needle, so we know that's working absolutely fine. Right, so active test time. Now we're going to do the fuel pump relay. Okay, so the fuel pump is controlled by the ECU. You see two things here. One says fuel pump relay, one says fuel pump. I've got a video on the fuel pump systems on a Lexus and Toyota, how they work. If you want more information about why there's two of those, go watch that video and it explains it in great detail for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the fuel pump on, and you can hear the relay click, and you might be able to hear the fuel pump working away in my fuel tank there. Fantastic. Okay, super happy with that. Now we're going to go on to the AC clutch, and you'll see here we can test AC magnetic clutch relay. We're going to go into there, and again exactly the same thing. I'm just going to press the button and it's going to click the relay. Move it over to the relay. Okay, fantastic. Obviously this is overriding any other systems or whatever. In the normal car it uses the pressure valve and all of that type of pressure sensor and everything to make sure it's all okay for the aircon to turn on. Right, so that's pretty much everything we're going to do just with the ignition on now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ear defenders on. We're going to fire it up, and then we're going to roll through there. So just a quick recap, in case you don't forget. Obviously starter circuits are really self-explanatory. If she starts up, we know everything is working. We're going to come over to the dash, look at the tacho and the coolant temp, which we've already done. We're going to go to the back of the engine, look at the ACIS valve. Then I'm going to rev the engine from using the accelerator position sensor on the side. Then we're going to come back to the machine. We're going to test both all the control valves, make sure that they're working for the VVT-i. Then we're going to go and do all the injectors and coils, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the codes. Okay, so you put my ear defenders on. Right, so nice and simple, key in the ignition, 1, 2, 3, fire it up. Okay, so starter circuit cool, tacho signal cool, coolant temp cool, ACIS cool, drive-by-wire test. Actually, I'm going to show you the check engine light goes off when it's running. No check engine light, we've got no battery light, we've got no oil light over there. Right, okay, so you should never have a check engine light when she's running. You've seen it here. If she's running and everything is fine, no check engine light. So let's move over to the codes. So obviously I'm using a diagnostic machine. I'm going to show you how to read the codes if you don't have a diagnostic machine. Let's try and get the lights in there. Right. So you've got bank 1 sensor 2, bank 2 sensor 2. Obviously those are the ones that are after the catalytic converter. They don't cause a check engine light, as you can clearly see, and they don't affect performance. So don't worry about those. And then we've got shift solenoid SLU, SLT, and SLN. So again, those don't affect performance. Obviously they're missing because the gearbox is there. And again, they do not cause a check engine light to come on. The ATEMU device is taking care of all the other stuff. So solenoid 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's taking care of the input and output speed sensor. And obviously it's telling it's in park and second at the appropriate RPM values. So that's absolutely fine. So these are the codes you should have all the time. Okay. Nothing else. If you've got anything else, there is a problem. So that's that. Right. Now, how do you read codes if you haven't got a code reader? This is something you can do on a 1UZ VVT-i. You can also do it on an IS200 if you want to. But it depends on your exact year model of your car. So previous to 2001, you guys had a little diagnostic port over here on the side. And the OBD2 port, all of them. But after 2001, you didn't have the diagnostic port. So what you can basically do is you go to your OBD2 port and you bridge pin 4 and 13. So that's ground and TC for trouble codes. All right. What I'm going to do, because obviously I'm keeping the OBD2 machine plugged in, I'm going to physically bridge the pins over here. So if you do have one of these, they are literally just labeled as TC and E1. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little wire. You could have like a paper clip or whatever you wanted. And I'm just going to come into here. And I'm going to take TC. I'm going to take E1. So if you want us to do a screenshot, it's these two pins over here basically. But as I bridge it, you're going to notice the check engine light is going to go off. And it's going to start reading codes off. So I'm going to hold the camera up there. And I'm going to push that in there. You can hear the throttle's making a weird noise. Now it's going to read the code. So it's going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 27, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 29. And you see a long pause. And then it'll go 1, 2. And then it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what it'll do, just keep cycling through the codes. So it'll go 22, 7, 27, 2, 9, 29. Then it'll have a long pause and it'll go 2, 7, 2. If you do that, it's going to lock the timing at 10 degrees. You're going to have a bad time. If you've felt an engine with a locked 10 degrees timing, it's extremely low on power. Okay, so why does it do that? If you look on the crankcase here, you've got 0, 5, 10, and 15 degrees. On your pulley, you've got a little section which you can actually just see over there that I've Tipp-X'd all white so you can see it nicely. All right, now then. You would normally have to sort of pull all these covers and everything off to check where your timing is and make sure it's correct, so you can see where I'm going with this. You could basically bridge those two terminals, grab a timing light. If your timing light works by just wrapping around the wires, happy days, mine does. Wrap the coil around there, fire the engine up, look at your timing. Is it at 10 degrees? No, it's at like 13, 14 degrees. What's happened? Your timing's out. Fantastic. It's a really quick and easy check. It doesn't require you to basically remove anything off the engine, and you can verify whether your timing is 100%. Okay, and that pretty much works with all Toyota engines. So even if you did it with the IS200 1UZ-FE or whatever, if you did that, it has the exact same situation, and that's exactly what it does. Also, don't be alarmed. You'll hear that the throttle motor also buzzes slightly differently as soon as you bridge that, as it goes into diagnostic modes. So obviously, the best thing to do is obviously once you've done what you need to do, turn the ignition off and just reset everything again. All right, so now that that's all done, I'm going to get this all bolted off this engine. Let's get it in a box and we'll get it over to you, Andreas, so that you can get it on your car and get it running. For anybody else, if you have any questions, as usual, please feel free to comment down below. We don't look at the comments super often. If you wanted a quick response, then try and go to our Facebook page and message us there. And yeah, Andreas, thanks for watching. If you have any other questions in terms of that, hopefully this video has been helpful in terms of how you're actually going to fit it in the car. The photos coming up now will show you exactly what it looks like inside the ECU box when it is plugged into a car. Just make sure that everything looks correct to that, especially the orientation of the ECU. Gray plug towards the front. If you put the gray plug toward the rear, you're going to have a bad time trying to squeeze everything in, but it shouldn't actually even go. Just be careful with that. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon, and enjoy your Christmas. Thank you very much. Bye bye.